Hello, and welcome to the Villains Tea Party, a podcast where we talk about all things visual novel. Today we will be discussing Never7, one of Uchikoshi's very first visual novels. My name is Corvina Hadria, and I will be your host, and today we are joined by the lovely Kieran. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Kieran. I also go by Kieran Prince or the Fluffy Prince online, and I play many a visual novel, many that Corvina herself will recommend to me.
I force everyone to read horrible visual novels. It is my rule of thumb, and also good visual novels. I'm not really sure where today's topic lands on that scale, but I actually didn't force you to read this one, did I? You read it
No,
for a review, correct? The Switchport.
yeah, I got a review for it. It's like, oh, okay, I'll read it, and I read it.
So Never7 is generally considered the quote unquote start of Uchikoshi's career. Uchikoshi being the writer of most critically acclaimed, probably Zero Escape series, as well as the Somnium Files, and all the various sequels. To get it out of the way, I think Uchikoshi is a pretty good writer. I think he has made some really good stuff. That being said, he also has a lot of misses. Quite a few misses. I personally consider Zero Time Dilemma to be one of the funniest games in the world to play with friends while you are drunk. Uh, but that being said, Never7, I actually read the fan translation of the PlayStation Portable port, and as mentioned before, you actually read the first ever official translation of it, which was ported recently to the Switch and Steam, along with Ever 17, which frankly is a whole other can of worms, so we're not going to be discussing it. Just know that if you want to play Ever 17, the official recent English translation is of the Xbox 360 port, which features a ton of rewrites that were not by Uchikoshi, so therefore it's not really relevant to this conversation. So yeah, we are going to be strictly discussing Never 7, not really related to the Ever 17 story or the Remember 11 story. Uh, so yeah, what were your first impressions of Never 7?
It sure is a visual. I It's like it has some good ideas. Um, but it's like the sci-fi was dipped our pinky toe in, and then our romance dipped our other pinky toe in, and we just kind of landed somewhere.
It's kind of shallow. I
Yeah.
think yeah, it's very much the dipping into the toes of kind of what Uchikoshi would later become known for, which is a lot of like psychological like mind trick puzzle writing. If you've ever played 999 or the Somnium Files, which are both extremely good games, and you should definitely play them. And they usually go on sale a lot.
Yeah.
um, Never 7 is very much it feels like Uchikoshi wanted to write a science fiction story, but the publishers told him no.
you
you're writing a,
yeah, come on. You know what sells. You gotta put it in there.
you're writing a romance visual novel. Which is fine. I like romance visual novels, but it does
Yeah.
start to feel a little bit shallow in both regards because of this. And Ever 17 and Remember 11 are generally considered significantly better explorations of those topics.
Yeah.
So Never 7 just kind of exists. Even when the remasters came out on Steam, if you looked at the player numbers, most people just skipped right to Ever 17 because
Oof.
Never 7 kind of has a weird reputation of just being like there,
Mm.
and because of that, very skippable. Um, I personally don't agree with that viewpoint. While you can read Ever 17 without reading Never 7, I feel like Never7 is still kind of an important piece of visual novel history, so I do recommend reading it, even if it's okay. It's just okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very it's a short visual.
It is
Like,
very short.
if it was like 30 plus hours, then it'd be like, all right, let's. Hmm.
It's pretty short, and honestly, if I'm remembering correctly, it has been a hot minute since I've read it. Once you get past the common route, all the routes are pretty unique, like without a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
repeating dialogue. Uh, which, especially considering the theme of the visual novel, which I guess we didn't really talk about. So just to give like a quick rundown, basically the whole thing with Never7 is that you and your college classmates are on like a little field trip excursion to an island, in the like just in the middle of like the Japanese Ocean or whatever, uh, very like rural like small town island, and you're just there for a while with like your college classmates, and a tragedy strikes depending on what route you're in. Something bad happens. Usually, the girl that you're romancing dies horribly, or something happens. And then suddenly you find yourself back on day one of your island excursion. And with the exception of one route, nobody else realizes that this is happening again. You are basically just living out the same days again, trying to prevent that tragedy from happening. And the entire idea is that there's time travel, there's like cloning. Cloning is just kind of like a thing that exists in this universe. It's not considered weird. There's clone racism, which I guess,
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about. Um, and basically, yeah, you're just that sounds like a lot of hard sci-fi elements. They don't really matter. Honestly, most of the routes from what I remember, you time travel and it's not really explored. It's just kind of like, "Oh, I have a chance to not make my girlfriend die this time." And that's just kind of it. And then you just kind of go along like the making them fall in love with you again type of thing. Which is kind of funny because I think actually the first route is the only one that really like, well, the first and the final route are the only ones that really like discuss the time travel aspect in
Yeah,
any
because
meaningful way.
everyone else is just kind of like not aware.
Yeah. And the time travel is kind of involved in another person's route, but like again, it's very vague and it's kind of like maybe she time traveled. Or maybe not. I don't know. It's just, figure it out. Which, considering what we learned later, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But
Yeah,
we'll get to that. um. So basically, Never7, very much generic anime romance visual novel with some science fiction elements. Uh, and that basically sums it up. Your main
yeah,
character is fine. He is there. He is serviceable. He kind of has a character, but it's like lukewarm in a way that it's like you can kind of self insert.
yeah.
He's not your like Date Kanami from I Saw
Oh
Live
no.
Files with a very strong, distinct personality. He's just there.
Fair.
The other characters, you pretty much have your like stereotypical tropes. You have like the Genki girl with Yuka, I believe her name
Yes.
is. You have the like shy stoic girl who doesn't show emotions, the Kudere girl with Haruka, uh, who you have to like thaw out her heart and make her love herself.
She doesn't have a heart.
Yeah, she doesn't have a heart. Sorry, my bad. She doesn't have a heart. Uh, you have the rich girl, rich spoiled, haughty girl who secretly has a heart of gold. Um, you have the Emoto, but she's not your Emoto. She is a middle schooler, I thought, if I remember correctly, which was a little weird.
Yeah.
Is it
Kurumi.
Kurumi? Yeah, I always called her Kuromi, like the the Sanrio character. And then you have the Ada Ada, like
Yeah.
big sister who is like basically the true route of the game. Uh and so like, usually when you have these tropes, they get explored in like a deeper way. Uh that doesn't really happen in Number 7. They're kind of just as they are.
Yeah.
Basically any twist you think of with those character tropes, like, the kudere being like, secretly soft and wanting to love and learn what love is. Like you have that, you have the like the haughty girl and she actually secretly loves animals and is really nice, but she doesn't want to show it. You know, it's all pretty standard. If you Admittedly, this did come out in like 2000, so maybe it wasn't quite as standard, but
Yeah.
if you've played a more recent like generic romance moege visual novel, you can probably guess where most of the characters are going to go. Which brings up the question, who is your favorite Never 7 girl?
It's between Haruka and Izumi. Probably leaning towards Haruka.
I feel like that's most people. I Haruka is my favorite Never 7 girl. She's very cute. She loves to fish, which is quite frankly the funniest character trait they could have given her. Um, and I feel like honestly, everyone I've talked to about Never 7, which admittedly isn't many people because a lot of people haven't read it, most people say, yeah, I like Haruka the best. She's the best one.
Yeah.
Who was your least favorite though? The other question.
Probably Saki. Just for me personally, I don't tend to like the very um I guess argumentative or like sometimes she has her reasons. A lot of times she has her reasons, but it's just like, damn, you're up here, can you chill a bit.
Alright. I'm gonna edit this part out because I want to make sure I'm getting the names right because I am blanking on. This is how involved I remember the characters of Never 7 because Ida, Saki, Karumi, and Izumi. Okay, okay, I remember now. I remember now. The characters of Never 7. All right, I'm gonna for the editing. Okay. So Saki's a very interesting choice because Saki's route might be probably the most memorable to me. And I know that that's not the most popular take. I'm well aware that Izumi is supposed to be like, the like very memorable, like this is where all the science fiction stuff comes in, and this is the truth of the island and things like that. But Saki's is funny for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Uh, so first of all, spoiler warning. As you might have noticed, the non-spoiler section of this video is pretty short because, frankly, there isn't that much to it. You're on an
Yeah.
island with girls, and also your buddy who has a mullet. Um,
I don't know if we're buddies. The way
you're
he
you're
just comes out the gate.
you're questionably homoerotic, uh, angry man, boyfriend, friend, dude, guy,
Dude.
Ida, who does kind of become story relevant, but not really.
Yeah.
But he is there. He is your legally required male best friend. as, and he's not even your friend. He's your legally required male other character that's there. Yeah. So, well, I know I just brought up Saki's route, but I figure we should probably go in like some sort of order. And we'll start with Yuka, because she's kind of the cover art girl.
Yeah.
She is the one that you're kind of supposed to go with first,
Mm.
because she bursts into your room at the beginning of the game. She's on all the cover art. She's the Genki girl. The game really wants you to get on her route first. And Yuka's route is a little interesting because, unlike every single other route in the entire game, Yuka time travels with you.
Yeah.
This is It's been a hot minute since I've read Never 7, so maybe you can answer this. Does that make sense
No.
with the explanation?
Cause like I thought about it, I think the third time I went through the route, and I'm like, wait, why is she time traveling when she's nowhere near, she doesn't have a bell?
So, like, knowing the truth of what. Okay, we'll just get Cure syndrome. I don't quite understand how she was also time traveling if the entire thing was like him being basically like, if I remember correctly. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, because it's like I said, it's been a hot minute since I played any of these games. Uh wasn't he basically like Jedi mind tricked into thinking he was like time traveling, and like everyone was kind of like fucking with him the entire time?
Yeah.
So
It,
like, why in Yuka's route? I think that they like tried to explain it, that she also had Cure syndrome for like a route or something, but I don't really remember if they actually explained how that worked, or if they just kind of were like, they kind of hand waved it. Do you?
don't remember.
Because I remember like reading it and be like, oh, okay, the girls are gonna. Because I went into Never 7 pretty unspoiled, honestly. I hadn't read any of like Ever 17 or anything like that. I just knew that Uchikoshi wrote it and that most people didn't really consider Never 7 that good. But I was like, I'm gonna give it a fair shot. I'm gonna read it. And I remember reading it and I was like, oh, the gimmick is gonna be that the girls are like gonna time travel with you to try and like fix things and solve mysteries. But then it just happens in Yuka's route and no other route. And then when you get to like the Cure syndrome thing, you kind of just realize like it doesn't really make sense that she also quote unquote time traveled.
Yeah.
Because like the whole thing is like they're playing with you. They're pretending that you're repeating the days, if I remember correctly. Um because like there's that whole thing with Ida that like he's super in on it and things like that.
Yeah. It was him and kind of main one, and kind of
Which like
got her.
which kind of brings up the question, because this is revealed in Kurumi's route, but Kurumi was also said to have time traveled slash disappeared, and then she like reappeared at the time travel magic shrine thing on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was cloned to make Haruka.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I'm not like, the more when I was thinking about it, I was like, this doesn't really make sense if the
Yeah.
time travel isn't like real.
Yeah. 'Cause like, oh, mass, it's like, okay, mass hysteria, but actually, in some cases. time traveling.
Yeah, it's like the mass hysteria thing. So if Yuka was in on it, right? Which all the characters, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, were at least kind of in on it, even if they didn't know the extent of it. Why did she only quote unquote time travel in the first route and no other route?
Yeah.
There's yeah. So the time travel thing is just kind of it's the entire plot of the story,
Yeah.
but they kind of just like hand wave it, huh? Like it's just like, oh, it's not actually time travel, it's Curie syndrome, and it's like, okay, that's cool. Can you explain all the stuff that was happening with the time travel, like that doesn't make sense with like Curie syndrome? And it's just kind of like, no.
Eh.
Like, was the thing about Karumi a lie? Did did she did she? Because Haruka is the clone of her, right?
Yeah.
So Haruka's the clone, and then but Karumi is younger because she time traveled. Hold on, I'm gonna probably edit out like half of this. I need to double check like the wiki really quick.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
trying to
Karumi.
if on Izumi route if she still brought up the story.
Cause like yeah, I'm checking like the spoilers. Just, double checking. And I could have sworn that the whole twist was that like Karumi was the clone and Haruka wasn't, but I'm not seeing that. So I think I might have just like slotted that in. Which I don't think is accurate. Hold on. Spoil me. Spoil me. Let's see. Thank you, Visual Novel Database. Maybe. Oh, I'm looking at it on the wrong window. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna pull this out and we can include this part in the video. Let me go back here so that it's actually capturing. So I'm on Visual Novel Database because I'm realizing that there's like some stuff I'm just not remembering properly. So, Visual Novel Database will save me here, right? Clearly. Um I think the funniest part might be the hardcore spoiler for Makoto, who's the main character, and it just says subject of gaslighting, which
Yeah,
is
I mean,
accurate.
yeah.
um uh yeah, I mean no, I was looking for it, but yeah, no, I think it's just kind of implied that Karumi did time travel. but like for real, maybe. Perhaps. Oh yeah, I also forgot Yuka's whole thing was like she was in love with a dude that died.
And I fell into the pit. I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna reveal that main guy is the guy that she was actually in love with, and there's some weird clone stuff happening now.
Yeah, it's like nah. Nah.
Yeah. It's like I liked that guy back in my class and you kind of remind me of him. That's all.
Yeah, it's a little weird because they're like, okay, there's clones, and it's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then it's like really not actually like a major plot point.
Yeah.
I mean, like it is, but it's like narratively, it doesn't really have anything to do with like curate syndrome
Yeah,
or anything like
no.
that. Uh, I do like that Saki. I guess we can talk about Saki now. Because again, Yuka, she is in love with her former lover, and then she time travels with you, and this, and she's kind of like, wait, I can time travel back to not let him die, and then decides not to. Honestly, Yuka's route is pretty okay. I thought it was like fine. I was like, yeah,
Yeah, it was fine.
yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Saki. All right, we're gonna kind of compliment sandwich the routes here a little bit. Saki's route might be perhaps the funniest visual novel route of all time. So first of all, Saki, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. Again, it's been a hot minute. Um, Saki is racist against clones
Oh yeah.
because uh she just is scared of them from being a kid, and she like bullied a clone girl or something when she was a kid, and ever since then she has hated clones for some
Yeah.
reason. Even though she is the one that, hurt the clone and not the opposite, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was like gave she gave a bell to the clone and then the clone her mom said, "No, you have to get that back." So she went to get it back and hustle. Clone got like a scar on their forehead. Trauma, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And since Haruka like also has a scar, like you're supposed to think like, oh, maybe they have like history. No, it's an unrelated clone. We don't know who the clone is that she injured. Uh, it's just she's just racist against clones. She doesn't like clones.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's it's not really like tied into like Haruka's story or anything other than that it just kind of gives Haruka another reason to hate herself, which she wasn't short on those. So I don't really know why
Yeah.
Saki also needed the clone racism plot.
Yeah.
I guess they needed someone to be racist against clones. Otherwise, is it really a story about clones? Anyway, Saki is, to put it mildly, a bitch, but she's secretly nice, kinda, and she just acts mean. Um, that being said, her route is extremely funny for one very specific scene. And I'm sure you know which scene I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
There is a scene where there is a puppy. And Saki's like, I don't care about this puppy, even though she clearly does. She loves dogs. And so Galaxy Brain main character Makoto, who you are playing as, and you do not have a choice in this matter. This game has lots of choices, but not here. You are you are gonna watch this happen. Decided to start kicking the shit out of the puppy.
It's just like the dissonance between it. Just like, oh, I thought I was lightly tapping the dog away, but instead I just wound up and knocked the dog through the air. And I'm like, hello?
And you just start like kicking the shit out of this puppy as it's like running back to you. And, I was like, oh, maybe this is representative of like abuse. Like, even as someone abuses you, if you love them and trust them, you don't see how they're hurting you and you will just always come back. But it doesn't really like go into that. It just kind of like she's just like, "Hey, stop kicking that puppy."
Yeah.
um and maybe you can like this might be giving a little too much credit to the writers, but I like to try my best to give credit. Um I like to think that that's like representative of like how she felt about like the clone girl, where she like the clone girl was her friend and then she hurt the clone. uh Ever since then has been holding on to it, but I don't know, I think she might also like just like dogs.
Yeah.
uh yeah, I don't know. There's just this scene and just kicks the shit out of a puppy.
Multiple.
And then she gets hit by a car. Wait, no, was that
No.
Haruka?
Oh no.
Who was which
That
one
yeah,
was?
that was hard. It was
Sorry.
Haruka, but Saki showed up because the dog was involved.
Yeah, Saki showed up. Saki jumped off the like fence or something for her tragic ending that led to the time travel. Like she like unalived herself, to use
Yeah.
a word that YouTube will approve of. Um and then we go back and, fix that. Yeah, I don't know. She's there.
Never got her
Honestly,
pizza.
I'm gonna be so real. I don't under. Maybe this is mean because I just don't like Saki that much. But was there a point to her being in the game?
Outside of just, I think she's literally just the vessel to introduce clones because it didn't come up until she was like, "You're a dirty clone." Everyone,
Yeah, because I'm like trying to think. Because I'm like, okay, like Yuka, she time travels with us. She's like, she shows up and like wakes us up at the beginning and like gets us started with the thing. And like, her whole story is like moving past like grief and all of that, which ties into the whole like clone thing with Kurumi and Haruka. Um, but yeah, Saki's just kind of there and she's like clone racist. And she likes dogs. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like she really like
yeah, it's
contributes to the themes.
like her thing is just like, "You gotta trust me. You're you're you're, you're on my side. You gotta trust me. Trusting, but in like,
Like I'm seeing
eh,
like she was uh like Yuka's classmate and like she was accused of like destroying Yuka's picture. But like I don't know, I feel like I mean I guess it kind of like the whole like you have to trust me thing does kind of lead into like the gaslighting part, the gatekeep girl boss gaslight of Izumi's route, maybe? If you squint, perhaps?
boys gotta have at least. Why? Why?
Um so yeah, she's there, as you can tell by how much we talked. All right, we're compliment sandwiching. We're compliment sandwiching. Haruka, my beloved, she just loves fishing. Oh my god, does this girl love to fish? She's a clone, and she hates herself because she's a clone. And it's actually kind of cool. They do this thing where they hide who her voice actress is until like you finish the game, so that it doesn't spoil who she's a clone of. But she's a clone of holy moly, Kurumi. Wow, Kurumi. Uh, and they have the same voice actress, and it's honestly kind of hard to tell. I think the voice actress did a really good job of it, of playing both characters. Um, yeah, Haruka, she loves fishing. She hates herself, and she's very quiet and not very emotional, and she's like, I don't have a heart. Uh, yeah, and that's kind of her thing. And she is my favorite, and I love her because I love a good kudere.
Yes.
uh, she does like she dies. This isn't a spoiler, you know, like or actually she doesn't really die, does she? She just goes to the hospital. And then they're like, "Oh man, we gotta fix. Oh man, I wish this hadn't happened." And then the time travel happens. Um, she gets hit by a car while trying to save Saki's puppy.
Yeah.
uh, which I think is actually a pretty good like plot point of
Yeah.
Saki is a horrible bitch to her because she's a clone. But Haruka still goes out of her way, despite saying that she doesn't have a heart, to try and save this puppy, this puppy from being hit by a car. Uh, and in that way, I think Haruka and Yuka might be like the two characters that really like grow the most.
Yeah.
Uh, so I like Haruka. I think that she is very cute. Uh, I think that her route is cute. I'll be completely honest, I don't really remember much of her route besides
A lot of
giving
fish.
her a bunch of pep talks and fishing. I cannot stress enough the amount of fishing this girl does is quite intense.
Yeah.
Basically every choice you have is like to get on Haruka's route is do you want to go fishing? Which like yeah, I do actually. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking, Uchikoshi. I would love to go fishing with Haruka. It's really funny because I'm looking at visual novel database, you know, to kind of like drag my memory, and the only thing it says she engages in is fishing and shopping.
There was no shopping.
So I think, I mean,
There was
they
one
go to
shop. Yeah.
the shop there, but
Yeah.
but man, does she love fishing. She also has the least amount of like tags of everyone except for Ida. So you know, she's there. She's cute though. She's cute, and I love her.
Yes.
10 out of 10. You just play Never7 for Haruka, and then you can
Yeah.
like put the game away. You don't gotta play anymore after you do Haruka's route. That's a joke. You should play the whole thing. But all right, and continue our compliment sandwich. Kurumi,
Huh?
the high schooler. I think I said middle school earlier. She's high school, but she looks like a middle schooler. My bad on that. Sorry. I know that makes such a huge difference. You know, the morality of a college student dating a high schooler. Um, hashtag cancel Makoto 2025. Um, Kurumi is, you know, the younger sister, hyperactive, immature. You know the one. If you've seen a freaking Emoto stereotype, like she's the Emoto stereotype. Uh, she also talks in third person, which I'll be real is not a character trait I find super endearing, and actually I would say it's kind of annoying in a lot of cases. Uh, so I didn't. really feel much for Kurumi, like
Yeah.
narratively. In fact, I feel like if they had kind of just like removed her as like a romance option and just kind of made her like
Mhm.
a plot character where her existence kind of like influences the world around her, I feel like it would have been the same, if not even better, because then they could have added more to like the other routes if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, Frankly, playing her route, I never felt she was like a romantic interest.
Yeah, no. It was very awkward scene kissing. Toto honey.
Yeah, it's just kind of like her story is interesting, like the fact that
Mhm.
she got kidnapped and they were like, "Oh man, we need to make a clone." Which first of all, like the cloning system sucks.
Yeah.
Even if you want to go by like the theory that Karumi is like the actual clone, which I've seen that theory around, and it makes sense. It makes sense. I would explain why she's like younger and everything. But if you want to take the game at face value, or even if you don't, her and Haruka don't look anything alike.
They don't.
Like I think they have like the same eye color. Yeah, they have the same eye color. And
Really?
like I believe the same. No, they don't even have the same measurements looking at this. So like yeah, I don't know. Your cloning kind of sucks, guys.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Your cloning systems aren't very good. Um so the whole thing is she got kidnapped and they're like, "Oh man, well, I guess we'll just make a clone of her." And then she showed up like a few years later in the temple or the shrine. Uh like she had time travel. And it's just kind of presented that that's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Which again, considering that curate syndrome is like the whole like mass hysteria thing, doesn't really make sense. Was the time travel thing part of the curate syndrome? Hold on, there has to be like a Never7 wiki. We're going to the Ever 17 wiki actually, because I don't think that there's a Never 7 wiki. Uh oh, thank God Google AI is going to tell me what to do.
Oh, I'm sure Google AI knows the entire plot of Number 7.
Yeah, it's not real time travel, but rather a delusion where he imagines, different memories in each loop. Um, yeah, I don't know. I know that the whole thing at like the end is kind of like, is it real or is it all a delusion? Um, but that that doesn't really work with if another character is also going through time travel. This entire video is just me being very confused by Never 7 again. I'm sorry.
Was
Like I feel like I went into this like ready to like discuss the like thematic meaning of Never 7 and everything. But now I'm realizing like once again because I had the same like perhaps I myself am going through Curie syndrome. Because I had the same exact thought process when I read Never 7 of but what about the rest of the stuff? And honestly, if a bunch of YouTube commenters are like, idiot, it's all clearly like a delusion, and like Yuka also went through delusion. First of all, thank you. Comments really actually drive the algorithm to push the videos out to more people. Um, but also like it does. Like, am I misremembering things? You read it like super recently, so like,
And like you, at the end, I'm just like, and it's like going through Reddit and the wiki. I'm like, what?
like I I feel I feel like, because I'll be honest, there are some times where I have to go to like Reddit and be like, Subahibi, what does this part mean? Because chances are there's someone with like a philosophy degree that's like, well, actually, that means such and such. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But Never7, I'm like trying to, like, this isn't like a meaning thing, right? Because like the thing with Never7, at least my reading of it, and obviously there is never one true reading of a piece of literature, which I guess this is by definition of literature, um, is that it's about like moving on past grief and loss. Is was my reading of it, right? Like how people cope with like grief, kind of. Except that that also doesn't really fit because you do save the people who die, presumably. So you're not really like moving past grief. You're kind of just like trying to prevent grief.
A lot of they kind of drive it. I know it leads into what's his photo at the end, like first loop is like, oh, if I hadn't hesitated, I could have saved her. Maybe don't hesitate, just go for help. It's like,
Yeah, like I'm trying to like, cause like there's a couple. First of all, there's a couple different themes in Never. It's not just grief, right?
yeah,
Like you got trust. You got like don't hesitate if you love someone. Like make it known because you don't know what will happen. Um, all that sort of thing as well. But the kind of like linchpin stuff in Never 7 is Yuka's dead ex-boyfriend that she had a crush on, or not boyfriend, dead friend that she had a crush on. Um, Karumi being kidnapped, and because they couldn't live with that, they created Haruka, or vice versa, depending on how you want to read it. Um, and like Saki not being able to move past the guilt that she has, so like a lot of like guilt and atonement and things like that, as well as like what does it mean to be human, although frankly that theme isn't super well explored, and I feel like Uchikoshi's other works probably do a better job of that. But yeah, it's just kind of like it it feels like Uchikoshi had like a bunch of ideas. Like time travel is cool. But what if it wasn't real time travel? It was you were just tricked into thinking it was time travel. And then didn't really know what to do with that. Or maybe, you know what it actually feels like? It actually feels like he wrote everything in order. So, like, he wrote Yuka's route. It was like, okay, yeah, time travel makes sense. It's about time travel. And then he was like, well, what if actually the time travel was like more like vague? And then he wrote the rest. And then he got to like Izumi's route. It was like, what if the time travel wasn't time travel and it was just gaslight gatekeep girl bossing? And then he like didn't go back to rewrite the other parts. But maybe that's
of like
like
like like okay, I have my true route now. True route, it's gotta be big and fantastic. Girl boss. gaslight. Let's go, girls.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I was like trying to think.
Just come out of this knowing even less about
Yeah,
seven.
somehow I feel more confused than when I walked into this Discord call. Like, I started this Discord call pretty confident on what we were going to be discussing. Um, and now I'm just more lost. Cause like, yeah, I don't know. Cause like, if the whole thing, if maybe like you're supposed, like, so like it's left vague, right? It's left ambiguous whether or not like you escaped the looping or, if the delusions were a thing. Are you supposed to read into it that like literally everything you've done was the delusion? Because like the whole thing with his Cure syndrome is that he wanted to go back to save Izumi,
Yeah.
but does that mean that like all the other stuff about like Kurumi wasn't real? Or did Izumi just like decide to be like, oh yeah, she time traveled, wink, 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 to like sell the delusion?
Our chick off the well, she's a
You're cutting it out again, by the way.
oof. And then Haruka's just she's a clone, but
I mean, I think the
or just something else happened to Kurumi, not actually traveling.
because like the whole thing, she got kidnapped, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe the thing is she just got returned, but like, wasn't the thing that like she also was like looked younger too and like was younger?
Yeah, because the thing that started the conversation, Izumi was like, "Yeah, I don't think she's my sister. I don't think she's my real sister because she looks younger than she should be."
Yeah, I.
But honestly, for me, it's par the course with Uchikoshi because I felt the exact same way after playing the second Isomnium Files game, and I was just like, "Wait,
Listen, Uchikoshi is a writer. um yeah, that's okay, okay, hold on, hold on. All right. Pause. Time out. We cannot dunk on Uchikoshi this whole time. Okay?
oh
I
no,
have to I have to give him a little bit of credit. Um I like 999 and BLR and
yeah,
Isomnium Files.
oh yeah, I love the Somnium game." But I will admit, man, it's like I gotta sit there for like 20 minutes, connected the brain, just being like the guy at the board. Like I connected dots. I got it.
Yeah, that is one thing about Uchikoshi. He does make me think, but I don't know if that's like a good thing. Like, there are some like novels that you like sit there and you're like, wow, this was like a life-changing experience. I really want to like think about like what this means symbolically. Um, and then you have Never 7, where it's like, what was the meaning? Or like, can you at least explain like the actual plot to me? Like, and how it made I understand the plot of Never 7. The whole thing
Yeah.
is a big old setup to be like, it was all a dream. Delusion. It wasn't a dream, it was the same thing. It was a dream the whole time. Uh but like that's not a story. That's just a plot twist.
Yeah.
Like he wrote the whole it's like he came up with the twist like halfway through writing a very genuine time travel story.
Yeah.
And then was like, yeah, it's a delusion the entire time. Uh I mean, like, it's been a while since I've read Ever 17, and I think that like he does do more interesting stuff with like Curie syndrome in that one, if I remember correctly. Um
Yeah. They call it like, I don't know if it's Ray or virus, and it's
yeah, it's like a
okay.
virus or something in that one. Uh so like I mean, it led to good things. From my I never read Remember 11, but from my understanding, a lot of people really like that one. Um, I think that's all I really have to say about Never 7. This entire video is just gonna be us being very confused. Did we even talk about Azumi's route? She died. Well, she basically dies, and then like you gotta go save her. And it turns out she's girl bossing you the entire time because
Yeah.
she's in charge of the like experiment. And also everybody's just like playing along with it because yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, also I'm looking at Reddit because I was like trying to jog my memory. They do explain Schrodinger's cat a lot in this visual novel. Um which does become the Uchikoshi staple of, hey, have you heard of this scientific theory? And then explaining it in great detail. I
Like,
feel like
no!
I feel like Aini is like especially bad about that, if I remember correctly. And so is Zero Escape, honestly. It
It's just me screaming on blue skies. Like, if I hear one more topic about Schrodinger's cat, stop.
I feel like Uchikoshi like opens like a theory book and then like points to a random scientific theory and it'll be like, this will be the basis of my next video game. Kind of tries to figure out how to cram it in.
And then also Schrodinger's cat.
And of course Schrodinger's cat. You do need Schrodinger's cat.
Cat always gotta bring every.
Which does beg the question. 100 line, I think, isn't Uchikoshi writing that was.
I he's involved in. And also may or may not be the last game.
Kodaka or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never. This is so odd. This really speaks to Never 7 staying power because now we're discussing a completely different game. Uh, I've never seen a game be marketed by saying, if you don't buy this game, I'm never making another game.
Yes, Uchikoshi is involved as a guys, I took out 5 loans for this game. Play it, please.
Guys, if you don't buy this game, we're gonna go bankrupt. And it's like, okay, but what's the game about? And it's like, guys, if you don't buy this game.
Do you like Danganronpa?
Do you
It's
like
like
Danganronpa?
it, it literally.
I
I remember just the first I saw the character, and I'm like, "This is this another Danganronpa? No, it can't be."
I do like that the marketing has gotten to the point of desperation where people are like, hey, this is cool and all, but can you make another Danganronpa? That he has basically started holding Danganronpa like at gunpoint and being like, if nobody buys this game, it goes from a 1% chance of me making another Danganronpa to a 0%
Zero.
chance.
Honestly, just add the characters as DLC.
Like holding Danganronpa hostage. If you don't buy this video game, Danganronpa gets it. I don't have any plans to make another Danganronpa, but if you
But
don't buy this game, it's a 0% chance.
no.
You better buy it.
Oh.
Anyway, that was my Uchikoshi take. That wasn't even about Uchikoshi. That's Kodak. Anyway, last thoughts about Never7.
I mean, I don't regret reading it. That's kind of dragging on it. It has its highlights. A lot of man moments. A lot of it.
Yeah, I feel like my thoughts on Never7 is I do think about it, which is more than I can say for a lot of visual novels I've read.
Yeah.
Even if it seems like my memory was really sketchy on it, I had to go to visual novel database. But like, who doesn't? You know, sometimes you just hang out on visual novel database. Um, I do think about it. If that's a good or a bad thing, I can't really tell you, but like, it is a game that I think about sometimes. And honestly, I can even say, I'll be honest. I think about Never7 more than like Zero Escape and Isomnium Files, even though I like those games significantly more. So, I mean, there is that. Does that count for anything? I feel
Probably
like it might.
something.
I feel like it might. Anyway, I think we're gonna end it there. I'm looking forward to all the angry comments in the YouTube comments section. Feel free to leave them, but also please leave a like to boost the algorithm. Uh, so yeah, thank you for joining me today, and have a lovely rest of your day.